It is very frustrating the fact that there are no Republicans here today. I wish there were Republicans, because sex trafficking should not be a D versus R issue. It should be a bipartisan issue. Everybody should be invested in finding the truth right now.
Comer and his committee doesn't even care about the man who started this hellscape. They don't even show up for his deposition.
The arrest of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor in the United Kingdom marked something extraordinary. A member of the British royal family taken into custody in connection with evidence emerging from the Epstein files.
Again, people ask whether this investigation that we're doing in Congress is working. And then you see people losing their jobs. You see people getting arrested now. Just people like Prince Andrew, actual royalty, getting arrested. When has that ever happened in recent history, right? And so that's why our investigation is so important, is because victims are getting at least some form of accountability, and they're seeing the people that trafficked them or were involved in this trafficking finally see consequences to their actions. And so this is really important, and that's why I'm so glad that this happened, and there needs to be more of it. And frankly, it's happening in Europe, but it's not happening enough in the United States.
That's right. A royal figure investigated, questioned, subject to legal process. A development that in turn set off a blunt reaction here in the United States. And if you were to tune into the likes of Morning Joe and listen to Joe Scarborough, he had some scathing words directed at the US Department of Justice in particular.
Gravity still holds, moral gravity still holds in government. You know, J.D. Vance always looking down the end of his little nose at Europe. Well, at least they have shame in Europe. If somebody was hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, there are consequences. No consequences here. And again, I keep saying it. Republicans are too stupid to listen to me, because they've always been too stupid to do what's in their best interest. This is your own base you're screwing. This is your own base you're ignoring. This is your own base that you're saying, hey, don't trust anything we Republicans say. You're doing that to yourself. And all the money and all the campaign stops by the president, all of that, that doesn't help. That actually makes things worse for you, because you're covering up for people who consorted with Jeffrey Epstein. Good luck with that.
On Morning Joe, Joe Scarborough, well, he didn't mince his words. He argued that if British authorities are willing to pursue accountability at that level against the royal, then American institutions should be asking themselves why similar urgency has not materialized around powerful US figures whose names and communications appear countless times in the Epstein-related disclosures. Scarborough's critique wasn't subtle at all, and, it didn't take a genius to figure out who he was aiming it at. He accused parts of the Republican Party of selective outrage, how they demand investigations when politically convenient. How many times have they discussed Bill Clinton? But retreating when scrutiny brushes up against wealthy donors or politically connected figures within their own orbit, which is why we're not caring about what side of the political realm you're on. Hold them all to account.
They're protecting Republicans. And so, again, if you did something horrific, or if you were extraordinarily close to Jeffrey Epstein, if you got caught lying time and time again about your relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, if you're a Republican, this same party that talked about getting to the bottom of the Epstein files, which we've been talking about on this show since 2015, when very few other people other than Julie Brown in Miami were talking about it.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a Republican, you're off the hook. In fact, Comer and his committee doesn't even care about the man who started this hellscape. They don't even show up for his deposition. That tells you how hypocritical and how morally bankrupt on this Epstein issue they are.
And his framing was direct. Accountability cannot be partisan. If it applies to princes, it must apply to billionaires, executives, and political insiders regardless of what end of the political spectrum they're on. One of the subtexts in the Morning Joe discussion involved high-profile financiers, including figures such as Les Wexner, whose past associations with Epstein have been publicly documented and scrutinized as he sat down for a oversight hearing.
I would go to some of the Victoria's Secret fashion shows. It was very important to the brand. At some of the fashion shows, Jeffrey was there and some Trump was there. And I remember because Trump would always introduce himself to me. And I always thought it was kind of odd that he was at the fashion show because he had nothing to do with fashion.
But there was one group of congressional lawmakers who were missing from that hearing. That's right, congressional Republicans. Not one showed up to that hearing. How can that be possible? They call themselves the most transparent administration in history, and not one GOP member of Congress attends a hearing involving someone with major ties to the person that all of this is connected to.
It's been clear to us, at least the way Mr. Wexler has presented this, that he, according to him, has not been was questioned by the FBI or the DOJ about Mr. Epstein. How outrageous is that? He's someone that's been named by survivors, someone that's in the files more than most people, someone that's clearly the financial benefactor to Jeffrey Epstein and has not been contacted or interviewed by the FBI or the DOJ? What the hell is going on? That is shameful. We should be ashamed as a government. The survivors deserve justice. And so that's something that we are going to continue to press today, and certainly press with Pam Bondi and the DOJ.
It is very frustrating the fact that there are no Republicans here today. I wish there were Republicans, because sex trafficking should not be a D versus R issue. It should be a bipartisan issue. Everybody should be invested in finding the truth right now. And the fact that we've had so little cooperation from the Republicans on the House Oversight Committee,